don't get caught talking on your cell phone when you should be working, unless there's some kind of family emergency and you cleared it with your supervisor that you need to answer your phone when it rings. And we'll certainly make that concession for you. Beyond that, break time, lunchtime, certainly do what you want to do and live your life, but beyond that, it's a distraction, and we shouldn't be talking on our phones when we should be working. Just something that we need to reinforce from time to time. We forget. Communication. Put communication on the sheet because we've brought quite a few contractors in this week. Our approach with contractors is they're part of the team. They're one of us. They're over here to assist us, working side by side with us, and we need to treat them like they're an employee. We need to make sure they understand what they're doing. If you're a contractor that just started, if you don't understand, you need to get some clarity from who explained it to you. But that engagement needs to happen that way. When you ask somebody to do something for you, don't assume that he's done it before and don't assume that he clearly understands how to do it if it's a short service employee. So take some time to explain to him. Our orientation reinforces some policies when they're out here is where they actually understand how we get our work done and how we get it done safely. I put the blast yard on there, and most of you guys have very little exposure to the blast yard, but we had a little incident in the blast yard a couple of days ago that Warren's talking about. It goes back to communication. Make sure that there's a lot of processes over here that have someone in a hood. Someone's working in an area that's very noisy. You need to communicate with someone, and the only way you can communicate with someone is for them to be looking at you. So don't roll up on somebody that's doing some work and they don't know that you're coming. And here's what happened. We were bringing a component into the blast yard. Guy was blasting up under a table. He needed some more slack in his line. He started pulling on his line. We got a forklift pulling in next to him, and the end result was somebody getting minimally sprayed with the blast hose, but it could have been bad. The employee wound up losing his hard hat and managed to back out of the area. If you go into the blast yard, and it's how we work, fellas, this is how we do things. We got something going on right here, we need to bring something right there. If we've got to shut the work down, that's what we want you to do, shut the work down. If that's the only way we can do it safely without jeopardizing anyone, that's what needs to happen. So make sure with all these processes, loading the trucks, unloading the trucks, test machine, I got to bring something to the test machine. Vitally important that you communicate with the people on the receiving end so we don't wind up in a situation that could end up very badly. And if anybody's ever been in close proximity to a blast hose and been hit by it, that's pretty bad. So make sure we communicate with one another. It's a constant moving components from point A to point B to point C over here. And we need to understand and we need to give people a heads up when we're moving equipment around over here. So communication, fellas. You're doing a hell of a job. Again, I have to stand up here and say, very little impact this week. Things that we talk about are typically something we learn from. We typically talk about them because we don't want to encounter this again. So if we got the information and we do it the right way, a lot of things that we talk about in here never come back to see us. That means we're doing our job correctly. So hats off to everyone for communicating. Hats off to everyone for planning what you're going to do before you do it. And let's keep an eye on one another. Just a heads up on what's coming up for us. It's my understanding that Tony's boat will be over here shortly. And there's going to be a lot of contractors coming in to work on that boat. We have to outfit it with the ROVs. We have some GPS equipment going on. So there's all kind of things that are going to take place. And in talking about how many crafts will be going on and off the boat, we're going to have a muster board. Some of you guys have been to GMF and dealt with a muster board. If you go down to Sabine now, we run a muster board in Sabine. You'll be issued a number. You take that number off the board when you go on the boat. When you come back off the boat, you hang your number back on the rack. That's a definitive way to have a head count of who's on the boat and who's not. And if we would have an emergency situation over here, that's something that's very important to us. So if you're involved in the process and just a heads up to you guys, that process is going to roll over to our barge activity at some point. It's just going to legitimize what we do over here to understand how many people are working on a barge, and I think we'll wind up going to our IS network cards at some point. But we're going to have a muster board for each barge. So hopping on 3 different barges during the day is still going to be something that you might do, but you're going to have to get pretty methodical with hanging that card up and taking it back off. And we can do it. I don't think we'll have any issue with it. Might have a little learning curve for a day or two, but we'll get it. So understand that that process is coming to see us. Understand that if you hadn't noticed by now, with us bringing on contractors, we're fixing to get slammed, fellas. And when I say slammed, we get slammed every year. And what do we do with it? We handle it, right? That's what we're going to do with it this year. The adversity, the short time frame, all the things that come down the pipe, the frustration that comes with it on some days can be handled if you handle it right. You don't let it get to you. And that's how we need to do it. So appreciate it, fellas. Who's got something this morning?
I'm saying Blast George. Blast George, you have to go in there, try to pull over the fittings with the inner lock. They're not in effect sheet from the road. And when they turn that back on, if you haven't run over it, you break that little aluminum housing on it. When they turn it back on, it's going to keep somebody's run.
Very important. What Scooter was saying, and again, we try and limit who goes into the actual blast area, but they have hoses that we don't need to run over with equipment. We can actually do some damage that a hose parts out there, and it's just going to whip around, and we'll be in bad shape. Somebody's going to be injured. Who else? There's a lot we can do with hoses, and we're good with our whip checks and our fins, but if you're rolling across the middle of a hose and it's weak right there, it'll part right there. There's nothing you can do about that, other than don't roll over the hose. So just be aware of that.
Hey Brad, over there in the condemn rack over there, they got some bad bowls up there. So when you go in there walking over these things and stuff, trying to be careful where they're walking at.
Walking and working surfaces, and on the barge where we're putting the timbers. You know, every few feet you're looking at a hole this big. Vitally important, fellas. Measure your steps, watch where you're going. We have some processes over here that we climbing over stuff looking for things. It can be accomplished without jeopardizing anyone, because we do it on a daily basis, but you have to be paying attention to what you're doing.
Hey Brad, I got something. Excuse me. I ain't gonna get up here high. I was approached by a couple of people, asked me to see if I could bring this up. We got a few young fellas in here, not the elderly fellas, because they dress responsibly. These fellas that got these pants down to their hips, nobody in this yard wants to look at your ass when you bend down. So if you need a belt to put around yourself, let me know, I'll go buy you one. Take your jeans that you own, that's real baggy, and throw the damn things away. Go get you some jeans that fit you. Because y'all represent this company. Nobody on the other end of the yard or this side of the yard wants to look, customer coming in here looking at young guys or older fellas with their pants down by their knees. That's not the way you're supposed to dress at a company. You can dress any way you want when you get out of here. You can hold your pants up with your hand like you see everybody do when they leave. But here, you don't want to do that. You just dress responsibly, take off the old clothes, get you some good stuff to wear, and make this company look like you want to represent the company you're working for.
There's two factors there, and this has nothing to do with it, fellas. You can walk around in a thong when you get off from over here, I don't care. That's a safety issue. The clothes need to fit you right, and like Lynn said, a little pride. Take a little pride. I know there's some processes over here that we come in and we're gonna get dirty, you know. one's asking you to wear dress clothes over here, but we want people to roll in this yard and be impressed with us and with what we do. We know they're impressed with what we do, but one little thing like that can hang you up, fellas. So just keep an eye on that. Appreciate it, Lynn. Anybody else?
Yeah, when you see somebody struggling or if they like really need help, help the man out whether you like him or not. Nine times out of 10, you're gonna help him if you're his partner or buddy. But usually when you don't like him, you got some kind of animosity towards that person, you're just gonna wave by and say, I don't like him, I'm not gonna help him. Or if you see a person that you don't even know, like a contractor for instance, out if you help that man out, you may earn his respect. But just help the man out whether you like him or not. Be the better person.
Y'all heard that in the back? See somebody struggling, and I've always felt like they don't necessarily have to be struggling. You don't have to wait till they're struggling. You can keep them from struggling. Help a brother out. It's the work, man. It's not who you like over here. And I don't think you could dislike anybody over here unless they gave you a reason to dislike them. We're over here trying to get some work done. We all have different attitudes and we all have different personalities, but we're all over here trying to do the same damn thing every day. And if I'm rowing in one direction and somebody else is rowing in another, we're not going to get anywhere. You see somebody needs some help. That goes with physical work. That goes with giving them some good information on how to do something a different way. Across the board, help one another out. I want somebody to be able to take my job one day because I want to be able to take somebody else's job. I got my sights set on other things. That's what you need to do. You need to teach somebody everything what you know over here. And you don't need to be worried about them taking your job. You need to have somebody that's ready to take your job because you want to go somewhere else. Continue to learn what you can over here and continue to teach what you know to who you're working with. And we'll continue to operate as we have. World-class organization. We got plenty of work coming up, fellas. Just keep your eyes on one another. Cooperate with one another. Somebody needs help them out.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I had a conversation in the orientation the other day. That was my biggest fault as a young worker. I didn't want somebody to think I didn't know something. So when I didn't know it, I walked off and tried to figure it out. Don't walk off and try and figure it out. Walk off knowing what you're getting ready to do. Y'all have a good day, fellas.